Hi everyone, welcome back. Let's write some more Leetcode today. Today we are solving zero array transformation. So the problem states that we are given an integer array nums of length n and the 2D array queries, where queries will have a left and a right. And for each query, we want to select a subset of indices within the range from left to right in nums. And in this range, we want to decrement the values in these indices by 1. So a zero array would be an array where all elements are equal to 0. And if we are able to transform nums into a zero array with queries, then we return true. If we are not, we return false. So if we look at this example, we can return true because from 0 to 2, we can decrement these two by 1. So after this query, it can become 0, 0, 0. So we return true. If we look at this example, we will return false because if we run the first query, this array will become 4, 2, 1, 0 because we decrement from index 1 to 3. We run this one, it will become 3, 1, 0, 0 because we decrement 1 from this right here. And it's not a zero array after all the queries have been ran, so we return false. So now that we have seen some examples, let's get to how we can solve this problem. So for solving this problem, I think the example walkthrough will make more sense. So if my explanation is not clear, I will highly recommend watching the example walkthrough because I feel like that will make it pretty clear. But what we will basically do is we will set up this borders array initialized to all zeros, and then we will look through queries. We will add 1 on the left border, and on the right border plus 1, we will subtract 1. So what this is telling us is that when we first come to the left, the value is decremented by 1, and then we will add it to current. But then when we come here, we need to make sure we subtract it. So after setting up the borders array, we will look through borders, and in each element in borders, we will add the element to current, and then we will add current to the operations. And in the end, for each value in operation, we want to make sure it's greater than or equal to the corresponding value in nums. If it is less than the value in nums, we automatically return false. And if all values are greater than or equal to the corresponding value in nums, then we return true. So let's go over this example real quick. So first, add 1 on the left, right plus 1, so it's 4. We will minus 1 here. Then we will add 1 here and minus 1 at 3, which is 2 plus 1. And now we will add through borders to current and add current to operations. So 1, add 1 to operation, add 1 here, add 2 to operation. Don't add anything, but we add 2 to operation, minus 1, add 1 to operation, minus 1, and add 0. And now we will compare the operation to nums. And as we can see here, this has only been decremented once, but for this to be a zero array, it needs it 4 times. So operations over here is less than nums, so we can return false right away. And the time complexity would be O of n plus m, where n is the number of elements in nums and m is the number of queries, because we need to look at queries to set up the borders, and then we need to look through nums to set up the operations. And the space complexity would be O of n, because both borders and operations will depend on the number of elements in nums. So now let's get to the coding part. So first we'll initialize the borders array to 0 times the length of nums plus 1. And now we will edit with the left and right borders. So for left and right in queries, we will increment the left by 1, and we will decrement borders of right plus 1 by 1. So minus 1. Now we can initialize operations to empty and current to 0. And we will look through the borders array. We will add I to current, and then we will add current to operations. So we will append it. Append current, and then now we will match the operation and the num in operations and nums. So correspondingly, we need to make sure that operation is greater than or equal to num. If that's not the case, then we return false, and if we did not return false, we return true in the end. Let's see if it works. Okay, perfect. Hope this was helpful. Thank you all for watching. If you have any other questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comments section, and I hope to see you all again soon.